The night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station 7 was usually quiet. Most nights, Pete Wilson would drink his coffee, check the automated systems, and read old sci-fi novels to pass the time. For 15 years, humanity had been listening to the stars, hoping for a sign that they weren't alone. For 15 years, there had been nothing but cosmic background noise. Until tonight. Pete nearly spilled his coffee when the alert sounded. At first, he thought it was a system error. The computers were programmed to flag any non-random patterns in the cosmic background radiation. Usually, it was just a pulsar or some other natural phenomenon. This was different. The pattern repeated with mathematical precision. Not random, not natural. Artificial. "Control, this is Station 7, Pete said, his voice trembling as he activated the emergency line. "I think we've received a signal." Within hours, the best minds in astronomy, linguistics, and mathematics were working on the signal. The pattern was complex but undeniably artificial. After 3 days of non-stop analysis, Dr. Emma Reed, the head of the linguistics team, called an emergency meeting. "It's a distress call," she announced to the room full of military and scientific personnel. "We're certain of it now. The mathematical patterns are universal across space. Prime numbers, basic equations. But embedded in them is something more. The signal comes from the Rigel system, about 860 light-years away." General Frank Harris frowned. "How can you be so sure it's a distress call?" Dr. Reed projected a series of waves onto the main screen. "Because it repeats with increasing urgency. The pattern intensifies, becomes more frequent. In human terms, it's like someone yelling louder and more frantically for help." The room fell silent. "So what do we do?" someone finally asked. "It would take hundreds of years to reach them with our current technology." Captain Tom Walker cleared his throat. At 45, Walker was one of Earth's most experienced space commanders. His weathered face had seen more time in orbit than most astronauts saw in their entire careers. "Not necessarily," he said. "Project Horizon might work." General Harris shot him a warning look. "Project Horizon is classified, Captain." "With respect, sir, if there was ever a time to declassify it, it's now." The tension in the room grew. Project Horizon was Earth's experimental faster-than-light drive system. Theoretical until recently, the first prototype had been installed on a new vessel called the Defiance. It had never been tested at full capacity. 3 days later, the world's major governments held an emergency summit. For the first time in human history, all nations agreed on a single course of action. Humanity would answer the call. Captain Walker stood at attention in the White House Situation Room as the final decision came down. "Captain Walker, you and the crew of the Defiance will embark on humanity's first interstellar rescue mission," the president said. "Your experimental FTL drive is our only hope of reaching the Rigel system in time." Walker nodded. "How much time do we have for preparation, Mr. President?" 48 hours. The signal is getting more desperate." The next 2 days were a blur of activity. The Defiance, docked in Earth's orbit, was loaded with humanitarian supplies, medical equipment, and defensive weapons. No one knew what they would find at Rigel, but they wanted to be prepared. Walker's core crew consisted of the best Earth had to offer. Lieutenant Jane Miller, the ship's engineer, was a genius with propulsion systems. She had helped design the experimental FTL drive and knew it better than anyone. Communications officer Mark Davis was a former linguistics prodigy who had joined the space program to hear the stars speak, as he put it. Science officer Alan Green had 3 fades and a gift for thinking outside conventional boundaries. The night before launch, Walker couldn't sleep. He stood at the viewport of his temporary quarters on the orbital station, looking down at Earth. "Beautiful, isn't it?" a voice said behind him. Walker turned to find Dr. Reed, the linguist who had decoded the signal. "I always thought our first contact would be a peaceful exchange of knowledge," Walker said. "Not a rescue mission." Dr. Reed joined him at the viewport. "In a way, this is better. Our first act as an interstellar species will be to help others. I can't think of a better introduction. If we can help them at all, Walker said. We don't know what we're flying into. That's why we're sending our best. She handed him a data chip. The latest analysis of the signal. There's something else embedded in it. Coordinates within the Rigel system. Whoever sent this was very specific about where help is needed. The launch the next day was watched by billions around the world. The Defiance, sleek and powerful, broke free from Earth's orbit and headed to the edge of the solar system, where the FTL drive could be safely engaged. On the bridge, Walker looked at his crew. Final systems check. Lieutenant Miller. FTL drive at 100% capacity. Captain. All systems go. Officer Davis. Communications active. We're still receiving the distress signal, stronger now that we're clear of Earth's interference. Officer Green. Science stations operational. All sensors ready to gather data on our arrival. Walker took a deep breath. Send the message to Earth Control. Davis nodded. Sending now. Defiance departing solar system. We will reach Rigel in approximately 7 days at maximum FTL. We'll establish contact upon arrival. Understood, Defiance, came the reply from Earth. Godspeed. Walker settled into his command chair. Lieutenant Miller engaged the FTL drive. Miller's fingers danced over her console. FTL drive engaging in 3, 2, 1. The stars outside the viewport stretched into lines, then blurred completely as the ship accelerated beyond the speed of light. The Defiance shuddered, then steadied as it crossed the threshold no human vessel had ever crossed before. They were on their way to answer the first extraterrestrial distress call humanity had ever received. Whatever waited for them at Rigel, Captain Walker and his crew were determined to help. It was humanity's first step into a larger universe, and they were going to make it count. What none of them knew was that their arrival would forever change the balance of power among the stars. The distress call wasn't just a plea for help. It was the beginning of humanity's rise as an interstellar power. As the Defiance raced toward Rigel, the signal grew stronger and more urgent. Something terrible was happening there, and humanity was about to find out what it was. Time behaved strangely at faster-than-light speeds. For the crew of the Defiance, the 7-day journey to the Rigel system stretched into a surreal experience. The ship hummed with a constant vibration as the experimental drive pushed them through space in ways humans had only dreamed about until now. Captain Walker established a strict routine to keep everyone focused. Daily briefings, system checks, and training scenarios filled their waking hours. Still, there was plenty of time to wonder what awaited them. On the 3rd day, Walker found Lieutenant Miller in the engine room, surrounded by holographic displays of the FTL drive. Her dark hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and there were dark circles under her eyes. "Have you slept at all, Lieutenant?" Walker asked. Miller jumped slightly, then shook her head. "Not much, sir. I've been studying the drive's performance data." "Problems?" "Not exactly." She gestured to one of the displays. "The drive is actually performing better than expected. We're moving about 15% faster than our calculations predicted." Walker frowned. "Is that safe?" "That's what I've been trying to figure out." Miller pulled up another display. "The drive is somehow becoming more efficient as we travel. It's like it's learning the best way to move through space." "That wasn't in the design." "No, sir." Miller's eyes gleamed with excitement. "I think we've stumbled onto something new. If I can understand what's happening, I might be able to boost our efficiency even further. We could reach Rigel sooner than planned." Walker nodded. "Keep working on it, but get some sleep too. I need my engineer sharp." "Yes, sir." In another part of the ship, Communications Officer Davis sat with headphones on, listening intently to the alien distress signal. The signal had been growing stronger as they approached Rigel, and more complex too. Walker entered the communications lab. "Any progress?" Davis removed his headphones. "Definitely, Captain. The signal is much clearer now, and I'm picking up new patterns. He pulled up a visualization of the sound waves. See these spikes here and here? They weren't visible in the original transmission we received on Earth. What do they mean? I think. Davis hesitated. I think they're words, sir, or whatever passes for words in their language. Dr. Reed's initial analysis was correct. This is definitely a distress call. But there's more to it now. Davis played a filtered version of the signal. Even to Walker's untrained ear, there was a rhythm to it, almost like speech. This part here, Davis pointed to a repeating pattern, appears over and over with increasing urgency. And this section here, he highlighted another pattern. This started appearing only recently as we got closer to Rigel. I think they know we're coming. Walker felt a chill run down his spine. They can detect us. At this distance. Their technology must be far more advanced than ours in some ways, Davis said. But there's something else, something troubling. He played another section of the signal. These patterns here suggest they're under attack. The mathematical sequences have the same structure as the distress portion, but they're faster, more chaotic, like they're describing destruction. Walker's face hardened. Keep working on it. I want to know as much as possible before we arrive. Later that day, Walker called a meeting with his senior staff in the ship's conference room. Science Officer Green had been analyzing data from their long-range sensors as they approached the Rigel system. What have you found? Walker asked. Green, a tall man with prematurely gray hair, stood up and activated the room's holographic display. Rigel is a blue supergiant star with several planets orbiting it. Based on the signal's origin, we believe it's coming from the fourth planet in the system, which appears to be in the habitable zone, at least habitable for a species that can handle higher levels of radiation than humans. The hologram showed a bluish-green planet with 2 small moons. What kind of life are we likely to find there? Walker asked. That's where it gets interesting, Green said, adjusting his glasses. Based on the spectrographic analysis of the planet's atmosphere and the frequencies used in the distress signal, I believe the species that sent the call has a biology based on silicon rather than carbon. Silicon-based life? Lieutenant Miller asked. I thought that was just science fiction. Theoretically possible, just very different from life on Earth. Green explained. Silicon can form complex molecules similar to carbon, but it requires different conditions. A hotter world, for one thing, which makes sense given Rigel's intensity. What would they look like? Davis asked. Green shrugged. Hard to say for certain. Possibly crystalline structures instead of soft tissue. Their sensory organs would likely be tuned to different wavelengths than ours. Their concept of communication might be fundamentally different, which makes Davis's progress with the signal all the more impressive, Walker noted. There's something else, Green said, his voice growing more serious. Our long-range sensors are picking up energy signatures consistent with spacecraft in the Rigel system. Lots of them. And they're giving off radiation patterns that suggest weapons fire. The room fell silent. We're heading into a war zone, Walker said finally. It appears so, sir, Green confirmed. And based on the energy outputs, the technology level is significantly beyond our own. Walker looked around at his crew. We knew this mission would be dangerous. We're still going to help if we can, but we need to be prepared for anything. Lieutenant Miller, what's the status on your drive efficiency improvements? I've managed to boost our speed by another 8%, Captain. We could reach Rigel in about 36 hours instead of the original 48. Do it, Walker ordered. Officer Davis, continue working on the signal. Try to establish some kind of basic communication protocol we can use when we arrive. Officer Green, I want detailed scans of all ships in the system as soon as we're in range. Identify the aggressors if possible. As the meeting broke up, Walker remained behind, staring at the holographic image of the Rigel system. Humanity's first venture beyond their solar system was taking them straight into an alien conflict. The Defiance was well armed for a research vessel, but it wasn't a warship. If they found themselves in the middle of an interstellar war, their options would be limited. Still, they had come to answer a call for help. Walker wasn't about to turn back now. On the 6th day of their journey, as the Defiance approached the edge of the Rigel system, Davis burst onto the bridge, his face pale. "Captain, I've decoded more of the signal," he said breathlessly. "It's worse than we thought. The species sending the distress call, they're being systematically exterminated by some kind of invasive force. They're begging for help from anyone who can hear them." Walker's jaw tightened. Estimated time to arrival: 18 hours, sir, Miller reported from her station. "Push it to 15 if you can," Walker said. "We might already be too late." As the Defiance raced toward Rigel, the crew prepared for their first encounter with alien life, and possibly their first battle among the stars. None of them knew what awaited them, but they were determined to answer the call that had reached across light years to find them. Humanity's arrival was about to shake the stars in ways no one could predict. Dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1, Lieutenant Miller announced, her voice tight with tension. The Defiance shuddered as the experimental drive powered down. The view screen, which had shown only streaking stars during their journey, suddenly cleared to reveal chaos. Captain Walker leaned forward in his command chair. My God. Before them lay the Rigel system in all its terrible glory. The blue supergiant star dominated the view, but it was the scene closer to them that held everyone's attention. Dozens of spacecraft filled the space around the fourth planet. Some were small and nimble, darting between larger vessels. Others were massive, easily 10 times the size of the Defiance. Energy weapons crisscrossed the void, leaving glowing trails in their wake. "Scan all vessels," Walker ordered. "I want to know who's who." Science Officer Green bent over his console. "Two distinct types of ships, Captain. The larger ones appear to be the aggressors. They're heavily armed and show minimal damage. The smaller vessels are taking heavy losses. The distress signal is coming from the smaller ships," Communications Officer Davis confirmed, "and from the surface of the planet below." Walker studied the battle. Even to his untrained eye, it was clear the smaller ships were fighting a losing battle. They moved with surprising speed and skill, but they were outgunned and outnumbered. "Any sign they've detected us?" Walker asked. "Not yet," Green said. "We're still at the edge of the system, but that won't last long with all these energy discharges. Someone's bound to notice us soon." As if on cue, Davis's console lit up. "Captain, we're being scanned. Multiple sources." Walker took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity had prepared for. First contact with not one, but 2 alien species, and in the middle of what looked like a war. "Open a channel," he ordered. "All frequencies, and put our shields up, just in case." Davis worked his controls. "Channel open, sir." Walker stood up straight. "This is Captain Tom Walker of the Earth vessel Defiance. We received your distress call and have come to offer assistance. Please respond." For several tense seconds, there was no reply. Then Davis's console chimed. "2 responses, Captain. Different sources." "On screen," Walker ordered. The view screen split. On one side appeared a crystalline being. Its body seemed to be made of translucent blue-green material that caught and reflected light. Where a human would have a face, this being had a cluster of crystal structures that pulsed with inner light. It had no mouth that Walker could see, yet when it spoke, the words came through clearly, translated by the ship's computers based on Davis's work with the distress signal. "Earth vessel," the crystalline being said, its voice melodious despite the translation. "I am Guardian Trell of the Lumi people. We thank you for answering our call. We did not know if anyone would hear us or come to our aid." On the other side of the screen appeared a very different being. This one was larger, with dark gray skin that looked almost metallic. Its eyes were yellow slits, and its mouth was filled with sharp teeth. Its head was elongated and crested with what looked like natural armor. "I am Commander Dax of the Drex Empire," this being growled. "You have entered Drex territory without permission. Leave immediately or be destroyed." Walker kept his expression neutral. "We received a distress call from this system. Under Earth's laws and customs, we are obligated to respond." The Drex commander's yellow eyes narrowed. "The Lumi are our property. Their distress is none of your concern. This system and all its resources belong to the Drex Empire by right of conquest." Guardian Trull's crystalline form pulsed more rapidly. "We are not property. The Drex invaded our homeworld without provocation. They are stripping our planet of resources and enslaving our people. Many have already been killed. Your species is inefficient," Commander Dax said dismissively. "You waste valuable minerals growing your crystal bodies when they could be better used by the Empire. Your existence is a luxury the galaxy cannot afford." Walker fought to keep his shock from showing. The casual cruelty in the Drex commander's words sent a chill down his spine. "Perhaps we can negotiate a peaceful resolution," Walker suggested, though he could already see that diplomacy was likely to fail. Commander Dax bared his teeth in what might have been a smile. "There is nothing to negotiate. The Lumi will be harvested. You will leave. These are the only acceptable outcomes." The transmission from the Drex ship cut off abruptly. Guardian Trull's crystal form dimmed slightly. "I fear you have placed yourselves in danger by coming here, humans. The Drex do not negotiate. They only take." "How many of your people are left?" Walker asked. "On our homeworld, perhaps 2 million, Trull replied. "Another 100,000 are scattered throughout our system in ships and on our moons. The Drex began their invasion 3 cycles ago. We had no weapons, no warships. We were a peaceful species devoted to art, science, and exploration." "You built these ships since the invasion began?" Green asked, impressed. Trull's body pulsed. "We adapted quickly. Our science was advanced, but not directed toward war. We have learned much in our desperation." Walker nodded grimly. "We'll need to know everything about the Drex ships. Their weapons, defenses, weaknesses." "Captain," Green interrupted, looking up from his console. 3 Drex warships are breaking away from the main fleet. They're heading straight for us." Walker returned to his command chair. "Battle stations. Lieutenant Miller, be ready to engage the FTL drive if we need to retreat." "Sir," Miller said hesitantly, "I've been studying the readings from the Drex ships. Their shields operate on a frequency our weapons might be able to penetrate. They're not designed to stop our particular type of energy weapons." Walker raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying we might actually be able to fight them?" "I'm saying they might not be as invulnerable as they think," Miller replied. Walker turned back to the view screen, where Guardian Trull was waiting. "Guardian, we came here to help, and that's what we intend to do. But I need to know, if we engage the Drex, will your remaining ships support us?" Trull's crystalline form brightened. "We will fight with you until the last of us shatters, Captain Walker. The Lumi may be peaceful by nature, but we will not go extinct without a struggle." 3 Drex warships now in weapons range, Green reported. "They're charging weapons." Walker looked at his crew. Each face showed determination mixed with fear. They had come to answer a distress call, and now they were about to engage in humanity's first interstellar battle. "Target the lead ship," Walker ordered. "Let's show the Drex that humanity answers when the innocent call for help." The Defiance's weapons powered up, their unique energy signature unlike anything the Drex had encountered before. As the first shots were fired, no one on either side yet realized that this moment would change the balance of power among the stars forever. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Defiance shuddered as its main weapons fired for the first time in actual combat. Streams of concentrated energy lanced out toward the lead Drex warship. "Direct hit," Science Officer Green called out, his voice rising in surprise. "Their shields are fluctuating." Captain Walker leaned forward in his command chair. "Again." Target the same spot. On the view screen, they could see their energy beams striking the Drex ship's shields. Where the beams hit, the shields flickered and weakened. "They're returning fire," Green warned. The Defiance rocked as enemy weapons impacted against its shields. Alarms blared throughout the ship. "Shields holding at 82%, Lieutenant Miller reported, but they won't last long against sustained fire." Walker studied the tactical display. The 3 Drex warships were spreading out, trying to surround the Defiance. They were clearly used to fighting as a coordinated unit, but they were also clearly surprised by the effectiveness of the human ship's weapons. "Evasive maneuvers," Walker ordered. "Lieutenant Miller, can you modify our shields to better withstand their weapons?" Miller's fingers flew across her console. "Working on it, Captain. Their energy weapons operate on a different spectrum than ours. I'm adjusting our shield harmonics to compensate." The ship lurched as it changed direction, barely avoiding another barrage from the Drex ships. "Captain," Davis called from the communications station. "The Lumi ships are moving to assist us. 6 of them are engaging the Drex warships." Walker watched as the smaller, nimbler Lumi vessels darted around the Drex ships, firing what appeared to be energy weapons of their own. They weren't as powerful as the Defiance's weapons, but they were forcing the Drex to divide their attention. "Open a channel to the Lumi ships," Walker ordered. Davis worked his console. "Channel open, sir." "Lumi vessels, this is Captain Walker. Let's coordinate our attack. Your ships are faster than ours. If you can keep the Drex distracted, we can target their shield generators." Guardian Troll's voice came through the speakers. "Understood, Captain Walker. We will draw their fire." The battle quickly took on a new rhythm. The Lumi ships darted in and out, never staying still long enough for the Drex to get a solid lock on them. Meanwhile, the Defiance hammered away at the Drex shields with its more powerful weapons. "Their shields are failing," Green announced as one of the Drex ships listed to the side, energy bleeding from a wound in its hull. Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Target their weapon systems next." The Defiance's main guns fired again, striking the damaged Drex ship precisely where its main weapon battery was located. There was a flash of light as the weapon system overloaded and exploded, leaving a gaping hole in the ship's side. "1 down," Walker said. 2 to go. But the remaining Drex warships had learned from their companion's fate. They changed tactics, moving more erratically and focusing their fire on the Lumi ships rather than the Defiance. "They're targeting our allies," Green said. "The Lumi ships don't have shields as strong as ours." Walker watched as a Lumi vessel took a direct hit. The small ship spun out of control, trailing debris and what looked like crystalline fragments. "Intercept course," Walker ordered. "Get between those ships and the Drex." The Defiance surged forward, placing itself between the Drex warships and the remaining Lumi vessels. The human ship's shields flared as they absorbed the enemy fire. "Shields down to 47%, Miller reported. "We can't take much more of this." Walker turned to her. "You said our drive was performing better than expected. Can we use that somehow?" Miller's eyes widened. "The FTL drive. In combat." Then understanding dawned on her face. "Actually, yes. We could create a controlled FTL burst. It would generate a shockwave that might disrupt their systems. How close would we need to be?" "Very close, sir. Almost point-blank range." Walker nodded. "Plot a course directly between those 2 ships. We'll give them a taste of human ingenuity." The Defiance turned and accelerated toward the 2 remaining Drex warships. The enemy vessels, surprised by the direct approach, split apart, trying to flank the human ship. "Now, Lieutenant," Walker ordered as they passed between the Drex ships. Miller activated the FTL drive for just a split second. The effect was immediate and dramatic. A wave of distorted space-time burst outward from the Defiance, washing over the Drex ships. Their shields collapsed instantly, and their systems flickered and died. "Both Drex ships are disabled," Green reported with awe in his voice. "All their systems are offline." Walker didn't waste the opportunity. Target their engines and weapons. Make sure they can't get back in this fight. The Defiance's weapons fired again, systematically disabling the critical systems of both Drex warships. Within minutes, they were drifting, powerless. "Captain," Davis called, "I'm picking up a transmission from deeper in the system. It's a lot of transmissions. The main Drex fleet has noticed what happened here." Walker grimaced. They had won this skirmish, but they couldn't hope to defeat an entire fleet. "How many ships?" Green checked his sensors. "At least 30 capital ships, sir. And they're heading this way." The bridge fell silent. They had accomplished what seemed impossible, defeating 3 advanced alien warships. But now they faced overwhelming odds. Guardian Trell's voice broke the silence. "Captain Walker, your ship has done something we thought impossible. You've proven the Drex can be defeated, but you must not sacrifice yourselves. There are too many of them." Walker considered their options. They could run, return to Earth with what they'd learned, but that would mean abandoning the Lumi to their fate. "Guardian Trell, can your people hold out a little longer? Earth will want to help once they know what's happening here." Trell's voice was solemn. "We have survived for 3 cycles already, Captain. We will continue to fight as long as there are Lumi left to resist. But I fear the Drex will accelerate their harvesting now that they know outside help has arrived." Walker turned to Davis. "Send a message to Earth. Full report on everything we've encountered. Include all sensor data on Drex ships and weapons. Tell them." He paused. "Tell them we need a fleet." Davis nodded and began composing the message. "Lieutenant Miller, how quickly can we get back to Earth using the FTL drive?" Miller looked up from her calculations. "With the improvements I've discovered, about 5 days, sir." "And how long until the main Drex fleet reaches us?" Green checked his sensors again. "At their current speed, about 3 hours." Walker made his decision. "We're going to hold position as long as we can. Help the Lumi evacuate as many of their people as possible from the most vulnerable positions. Then we'll lead the Drex on a chase away from this system before jumping back to Earth." "You intend to be bait, Captain?" Green asked. Walker nodded. "The Drex seem arrogant. They underestimated us once. Let's hope they do it again." As the crew prepared for their desperate plan, Walker gazed at the view screen, where the beautiful blue-green planet of the Lumi hung in space. Humanity had come to answer a distress call, and in doing so had stumbled into a war. But they had also discovered they weren't as outmatched as they feared. The Drex may have been conquering this region of space for centuries, but they had never encountered humans before. They had no idea what they had awakened. "Prepare to engage the main Drex fleet," Walker ordered, his voice steady despite the odds against them. "Let's show them that humanity stands with those who call for help." "Main Drex fleet closing in," Science Officer Green announced, his voice tense. 18 minutes until they're within weapons range. Captain Walker stood at the center of the Defiance's bridge, studying the tactical display. The evacuation of the most vulnerable Lumi positions was proceeding, but too slowly. They needed more time. "Guardian Trell," Walker said into the open communication channel, "we need to get more of your people to safety. How many have you managed to evacuate so far?" The crystalline being's voice came through clearly. "Nearly 10,000 from our orbital stations, but there are still many more, and the Drex are targeting our transports." Walker turned to his science officer. "What are we looking at? Green, give me options." Green had been working nonstop, analyzing the data they'd gathered on both the Lumi and the Drex. He looked up from his console, an unusual expression on his face. "Captain, I've been studying the Lumi biology based on the readings we've taken. There's something remarkable about them." He pulled up a display showing the molecular structure of a Lumi. Their crystalline bodies aren't just for show. They're living silicon-based computers, capable of storing and processing enormous amounts of data. "How does that help us right now?" Walker asked, impatient. "It might not help in battle," Green admitted. But I also been analyzing some medical data Guardian Trell shared with us. The Lumi have developed medical technology far beyond our own. Their understanding of cellular manipulation could revolutionize human medicine. They might have cures for diseases we've struggled with for centuries. Walker understood immediately. This wasn't just about saving an alien species anymore. It was about what the Lumi could offer humanity. The Drex wanted to harvest the Lumi for their physical resources, but they were overlooking the true value: knowledge. Davis, Walker turned to his communications officer. Add that to the message to Earth. Make sure they understand what's at stake here. Yes, sir, Davis replied, updating the transmission. Walker made his decision. We're changing the plan. We're not running. Sir? Miller looked up from her station, surprised. The Drex haven't defeated us yet because they underestimate us. Let's use that. Walker turned back to the tactical display. Miller, can we do that FTL burst again? Yes, but not right away. The drive needs time to cool down. How many bursts could we manage in one battle? Miller thought for a moment. Maybe 3, spaced about 15 minutes apart. Walker nodded. That gives us something to work with. Here's the plan. We're going to make the Drex think Earth has already sent a fleet. Davis raised an eyebrow. A bluff. Sometimes perception is more powerful than reality. Walker smiled. Open a channel to the approaching Drex fleet. Make sure it's broadcasting on all frequencies so the Lumi can hear it too. Davis worked his console. Channel open. Sir. Walker stood tall, facing the view screen. Attention Drex fleet. This is Captain Tom Walker of the Earth warship Defiance. You have witnessed what one human ship can do against your forces. Be advised that a full battle group from Earth is already en route to this system. We are the Vanguard, sent to assess the situation. Our fleet carries weapons specifically designed to penetrate Drex shields. He paused for effect. We have established an alliance with the Lumi people. Any further aggression against them will be considered an act of war against Earth. I suggest you withdraw from this system immediately. There was a long pause before a response came. The view screen showed a larger, more decorated Drex than Commander Dax. This one wore what appeared to be armor made from some dark metal, adorned with symbols of rank. I am High Commander Vorn of the Drex Empire, the alien growled. Your single ship does not concern us, human. And your claimed fleet is a transparent deception. No species has successfully challenged the Drex Empire in 1,000 cycles. Walker remained impassive. You're making an assumption based on ignorance, High Commander. Your forces have never encountered humans before. You have no idea what we're capable of. We encountered your pathetic ship, Vorn sneered. We learned all we need to know. Did you? Walker asked. 3 of your warships disabled by 1 human vessel. Does that suggest to you that we're weak? Or does it suggest that what you've seen so far is just a fraction of our capabilities? The Drex commander's yellow eyes narrowed, but uncertainty flickered in them. Walker pressed his advantage. The choice is yours, High Commander. Withdraw now, or face the consequences when our main fleet arrives. The Drex commander cut the transmission without responding. They're still coming, Green reported. No change in their approach. Walker hadn't expected them to retreat so easily. All hands, battle stations. Lieutenant Miller, prepare for evasive maneuvers. We'll need perfect timing on those FTL bursts. As the crew prepared for battle, Guardian Trell contacted them again. Captain Walker, I shared your message with all Lumi. It has given our people hope. Whatever happens now, know that you have already done more for us than we could have expected from strangers. We haven't won yet, Walker replied. Perhaps not, Trell said, but you have shown the Drex can be defeated. That alone changes everything. The next few hours were chaos. The Defiance darted between much larger Drex ships, using its superior maneuverability and the periodic FTL bursts to disrupt enemy formations. The Lumi ships, inspired by the human vessel's bravery, fought with renewed vigor. The Drex, for their part, seemed confused by the tactics. They were used to overwhelming force, not guerrilla warfare in space. Each time they thought they had the Defiance cornered, Miller would execute an impossible maneuver or Walker would order a targeted strike that exposed a weakness in Drek's defenses. 5 hours into the battle, with the Defiance's shields failing and power reserves critically low, Davis suddenly called out from his station. "Captain, I'm picking up multiple FTL signatures at the edge of the system." Walker's heart sank. Had the Dreks called for reinforcements? "Identification?" he asked, bracing for bad news. Davis's face broke into a wide grin. "They're ours, sir. Earth ships. 5 of them, including 2 heavy destroyers." The bridge erupted in cheers. Walker could hardly believe it. "How is that possible? We only sent the message yesterday." Miller looked up from her console. "The FTL signal must have traveled faster than we thought. Earth must have dispatched ships immediately." On the view screen, they watched as 5 human vessels dropped out of FTL travel. They were not as sleek as the Defiance, being older models retrofitted with experimental FTL drives, but they were heavily armed. "Incoming transmission from the lead ship," Davis reported. Admiral Helen Foster's face appeared on screen. "Captain Walker, this is Admiral Foster aboard the Dauntless. Sorry we're late to the party. When we received your message, the Security Council convened an emergency session. It was unanimous. Humanity stands with the Lumi." Walker couldn't hide his relief. "Your timing is perfect, Admiral. We've been keeping the Dreks distracted, but we're running on fumes." "Well, the cavalry has arrived," Admiral Foster replied with a grim smile. "And we brought some new toys specifically designed based on your data about Drek shields." Within an hour, the tide of battle had shifted dramatically. The Dreks, faced with 6 human ships using weapons they had no defense against, began to retreat. 3 of their largest vessels were disabled or destroyed. The rest formed up and accelerated away from the planet. "They're running," Green confirmed, astonishment in his voice. Davis listened to his headset. "Message from High Commander Vorn. Audio only." "Let's hear it," Walker said. Vorn's voice was cold with rage. "This is not over, humans. You have made an enemy of the Dreks Empire today. We will return in force." Walker exchanged glances with Admiral Foster on the view screen. "We'll be waiting," he replied simply. 3 days later, Captain Walker stood in a vast crystalline chamber on the Lumi homeworld. The air was thinner than Earth's but breathable, and the higher radiation was within tolerable limits for short visits. Around him stood his crew, Admiral Foster, and several Lumi Guardians, including Trell. "Today we formalize our alliance," Trell announced, his crystalline body glowing with vibrant colors. "The Lumi and humans stand together against the Dreks threat." Admiral Foster nodded. "Earth has already begun constructing more ships with FTL capability. Within a year, we'll have a proper fleet to help defend your world." Trell's form pulsed with light. "And we will share our medical technology with Earth, as promised. Already, our scientists have adapted several treatments for human biology." Walker looked around at the gathered beings, human and Lumi together. What had started as a response to a desperate call for help had become the beginning of humanity's emergence as an interstellar power. As he prepared to return to the Defiance, Walker received a message from Earth. The Security Council had reviewed all the data they'd sent back about the Dreks Empire. Intelligence analysts had determined that the Dreks had conquered dozens of systems and subjugated numerous species over centuries. But now, for the first time, they had encountered a species they couldn't easily defeat: humans, with their unique technology and their willingness to fight for strangers who called for help. In response, Earth had already established colonies on 3 previously uninhabited systems near Rigel, creating a defensive perimeter. More ships were being built. Alliances were being formed with other species who had suffered under Drek's rule. The distress call that had reached across the stars had done more than save the Lumi. It had awakened humanity to the wider galaxy and its dangers. and to humanity's unexpected strength among the stars. The Drex had no idea what they had started, but they would soon find out. The massive ship hung in space like a sleeping giant, its dark hull reflecting the distant sunlight. Captain James Walker stood at the observation deck of his shuttle, his weathered face showing no emotion as they approached the vessel. This was humanity's big moment, their first major gift from the stellar Concordat after 50 years of limited contact. But something about it made his stomach turn. Quite a sight, isn't it? Chief Engineer Maria Torres floated up beside him. Her dark eyes scanned the ancient battleship with professional interest. 2 miles long, half a mile wide. Makes our biggest ships look like toys. Walker nodded slowly. And they just happened to find it drifting in deep space, decided to give it to us out of the kindness of their hearts. The sarcasm in his voice wasn't lost on Torres. You don't trust them either. She pulled up a tablet, showing preliminary scans of the vessel. Trust is earned, Miria. In 50 years, they've given us nothing but scraps of outdated tech and vague warnings about developing too quickly. Now suddenly they're handing us a battleship. He shook his head. Something's wrong. The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Walker led his team through the airlock. 12 of Earth's best engineers and scientists, handpicked for this mission. The ship's interior was dark, illuminated only by their suits' lights. The air was stale but breathable, according to their instruments. Main engineering should be 3 decks down, Torres said, consulting her map. The Concordat had provided basic schematics, claiming they were translated from the original builder's databanks. We'll need to get power running before we can do a proper survey. Walker split the team into 3 groups. He went with Torres and Dr. Tom Reed, their power systems specialist. The corridors were massive, clearly built for beings larger than humans. Their footsteps echoed off metal floors that hadn't felt movement in centuries. Look at this craftsmanship, Reed whispered, running his hand along a wall panel. This isn't just advanced, it's elegant. Whoever built this ship, they were artists as well as engineers. They reached main engineering after 20 minutes of careful navigation. The chamber was enormous, dominated by what seemed to be the main power core, a towering cylinder of dark metal and crystal, reaching up through several decks. Torres immediately went to work, setting up portable lights and scanning equipment. This is incredible. She studied her readings with growing excitement. The power core uses principles we've only theorized about. Quantum energy manipulation at a scale we couldn't even imagine. Can we get it running? Walker asked, keeping his voice neutral despite the growing unease in his gut. With time, yes. But Torres frowned at her scanner. That's odd. What is it? These connections here. She pointed to a series of crystalline tubes running from the core. They're routed in a way that makes no sense. It's like someone deliberately created feedback loops in the power distribution system. Reed moved closer, his own scanner whirring. She's right. Look at these junctions. They're modified. Recently, he looked up at Walker. Someone's been tampering with this ship's systems. Walker's communication unit crackled. Captain, this is Team 2. We found something in the computer core you need to see. On our way. Team 3. Report to main engineering and assist Chief Torres. Walker and Reed made their way to the computer core. 6 decks up, they found Lisa Park, their systems analyst, staring at streams of alien code on her portable display. What am I looking at, Park? Sabotage, sir. Elegant, careful sabotage. Her fingers flew over the keys. The ship's original operating systems have been modified. There are hidden commands buried in the startup sequences, things that would only activate once we got the power running. Walker felt cold sweat on his back, despite his suit's temperature control. Can you tell what these commands would do? Not yet. They're incredibly complex, and they're designed to look like normal system functions. But they're wrong. Like someone wrote them to be deliberately misunderstood. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. More evidence of tampering emerged with every deck they explored. The weapons systems. The shields, even the life support, all had been subtly modified. The Concordat's gift was looking more like a Trojan horse with every passing hour. Walker gathered his team in what appeared to be the ship's main briefing room. The portable lights cast long shadows as they shared their findings. The picture that emerged was disturbing. They wanted us to think we'd gotten lucky, Torres explained, showing diagrams on the main display. Find this amazing ship, get it running, maybe learn some new technology. But look here. She highlighted the modified systems. Once we powered up the main core, these feedback loops would create a cascade effect. The quantum energy wouldn't just destroy the ship, it would tear a hole in space-time. Half the solar system would be gone before anyone knew what happened. And the Concordat would express their deepest regrets, Walker added grimly. Such a tragedy, the humans trying to operate technology they weren't ready for. Should have listened to our warnings about developing too quickly. What do we do? Reed asked. If we report this, they'll know we found out. They might try something else, something worse. Walker stood silent for a long moment, looking at the diagrams. The Concordat had underestimated humanity in the worst possible way. They thought humans would be so excited by their gift that they'd rush to power it up, never checking thoroughly enough to find the subtle traps woven throughout its systems. We do exactly what they expect, he said finally. We act grateful. We take our time studying the ship, telling them we want to be careful and thorough. And meanwhile, he looked at Torres. How well do you understand that quantum core? A slow smile spread across Torres's face. Well enough to know it's not just a weapon. The Concordat didn't build this ship. They found it, just like they said. And I don't think they understand half of what it can really do. Then that's our advantage. Walker looked around at his team. They handed us this ship thinking it would be our destruction. Instead, we're going to learn everything about it. Every system, every circuit, every line of code. And when we're done, we'll have something they don't expect. Torres finished. Knowledge they don't have, about technology they don't fully understand. Walker nodded. Send word back to Earth. Tell them we've begun preliminary surveys. Everything looks promising. Tell them we'll need at least 3 months for a proper study before attempting to power up the main systems. He smiled grimly. Meanwhile, we have work to do. They thought they were handing us a death trap. Let's see how they like it when their trap becomes our key to the stars. The team broke up, heading back to their assigned areas with renewed purpose. Walker remained in the briefing room, staring at the technical diagrams. 50 years of patronizing treatment, of being handed obsolete technology like treats to a pet. The Concordat thought they were dealing with children, too naive to check their gifts for poison. That mistake was going to cost them dearly. 3 months into the restoration project, the ancient battleship had become a hive of activity. Teams of engineers and scientists worked around the clock, their presence carefully hidden from the Concordat's regular check-ins. In the ship's vast engineering section, Maria Torres hadn't slept properly in days. She sat surrounded by holographic displays, each showing different aspects of the quantum core's internal workings. You need to see this, Captain, she called out as Walker entered the room. Dark circles under her eyes matched his own, but excitement filled her voice. Remember those feedback loops we found? They're not just meant to overload the core. Look at this pattern. Walker leaned over her shoulder, studying the complex energy diagrams. After 3 months of intensive study, he'd learned enough to follow the basics. They're trying to create some kind of reaction. Not just any reaction. Torres pulled up another display. When the core overloads, it wouldn't just explode. It would create a cascading quantum effect that would spread through space. The blast would keep growing, feeding on itself. They meant to take out the whole solar system, maybe even beyond. Walker's face hardened. They really wanted to make sure nothing survived. No evidence, no witnesses. But that's not even the worst part. Torres brought up new calculations. The Concordat didn't design this trap. They copied it. These modifications, they're clumsy. Like someone trying to copy advanced technology, they don't fully understand. What do you mean? The original quantum core. Torres's eyes lit up with professional admiration. It's a work of art. The species that built this ship had mastered energy manipulation at a level we can barely comprehend. But the Concordat's modifications, they're like a child playing with their parents' tools. They knew enough to make it destructive, but they missed so much. A new voice joined the conversation. She's right. Dr. Robert Nash, their quantum physicist, walked in carrying fresh data tablets. His usual neat appearance had given way to rumpled clothes and messy hair. We've been studying the original core designs. This ship wasn't meant to be a weapon. It was meant to be something far more impressive. Nash spread his tablets across a workbench, showing complex equations and energy patterns. The quantum core was designed to manipulate space-time itself, not just for faster-than-light travel, but for precise control over quantum fields. The original builders could probably reshape reality at will. Walker looked between them. And the Concordat doesn't understand this. They understand enough to be dangerous, Torres said. But no, they don't see the full picture. They found this ship, figured out how to make it into a bomb, and thought that was its greatest potential. She laughed bitterly. It's like finding a supercomputer and using it as a paperweight. The captain was silent for a long moment, processing this information. Can we use this? Turn their trap against them? Nash nodded slowly. We think so. Maria and I have been working on something. The Concordat expects us to power up the core according to their modified protocols. But if we bypass their changes, use the original systems the way they were meant to be used. Show me. The next hour was filled with technical explanations. Walker listened carefully as his experts laid out their plan. The quantum core could be activated safely, but it would take precise timing and perfect execution. One mistake, and the Concordat's trap would spring exactly as intended. The real question, Torres said finally, is what we do once we have control of the core. Its power could revolutionize human civilization overnight. But the Concordat would never let that happen, Walker finished. They'd rather destroy us than see us advance that quickly. He walked to the enormous windows overlooking Earth below. How long until they expect us to attempt activation? Their ambassador has been pushing for a test next week, Nash said. They're getting impatient. I think they're worried we might find something if we study it too long. A bit late for that worry. Walker turned back to his team. How many people know the full extent of what we've discovered? Just the core team. Maybe 20 people total. We've kept everything compartmentalized, just like you ordered. Walker nodded. Good, because what I'm about to propose borders on treason. He took a deep breath. We're going to power up the core, but not the way they expect, and not when they expect it. And when we do, he smiled grimly. We're going to show them exactly what happens when you underestimate humanity. The next 3 days were a blur of preparation. While the official engineering teams made a show of running standard tests, Torres and Nash led a secret group in preparing the quantum core for its true awakening. They worked in shifts, always keeping some activity visible for the Concordat's watching eyes, while the real work happened hidden from view. Walker coordinated with Earth's Defense Command, laying groundwork for what would come next. If they succeeded, humanity would leap forward centuries in technological development overnight. If they failed, there might not be an Earth left to defend. The night before their planned activation, Walker found Torres alone in the engineering bay. She sat staring at the quantum core, its crystalline structure glowing faintly in the dim light. Having doubts, he asked. She shook her head. The opposite. I've never been more certain about anything in my life. This ship, it's not just technology, Captain. It's art. Poetry written in quantum fields and crystalline matrices. The beings who built it. She touched the core gently. They must have been incredible. And now their legacy falls to us, Walker said quietly. Not to the Concordat, who would use it for destruction, but to humans who spent 3 months taking apart every system, learning every detail, refusing to take anything at face value. "It's almost funny," Torres said. "They thought our caution, our paranoia, would be our weakness, that we'd waste so much time studying their gift that we'd never see its true potential. Instead, it was our salvation." Walker checked his watch. "Get some sleep, Maria. Tomorrow, we show the Concordat exactly what happens when you hand humans a puzzle and expect them not to solve it." Torres stood, stretching tired muscles. "You know they'll never forgive us for this." "No," Walker agreed. "But after tomorrow, they'll never underestimate us again." As they left the engineering bay, the quantum core pulsed quietly in the darkness. Tomorrow, it would either destroy everything they held dear or become humanity's key to the stars. The choice had been made. The trap had been dismantled, understood, and transformed. Tomorrow, the Concordat would learn that some species are too clever to be trapped and too dangerous to be betrayed. The day of reckoning arrived with deceptive calm. The ancient battleship floated silently above Earth, its dark hull reflecting the first rays of sunrise. Inside, the atmosphere was anything but peaceful. Teams of engineers rushed through final preparations while trying to appear unhurried to the watching Concordat observers. In the main control room, Walker stood before the ship's massive view screens. 6 Concordat representatives hovered nearby, their tall, slender forms radiating barely concealed anticipation. Their spokesman, who called himself the Observer, stepped forward. "We trust you have thoroughly examined all systems." The Observer's translated voice carried a note of false concern. "We wouldn't want any accidents during the activation sequence." Walker met the alien's gaze steadily. "We've been very thorough. My team has checked every system 3 times over." He didn't mention which checks they'd actually performed or what they'd found. "We're ready to begin power-up procedures." In engineering, Torres and Nash worked with practiced precision. Their movements, rehearsed countless times in secret, appeared natural and unrehearsed. The quantum core hummed softly as preliminary power began flowing through its circuits. "Initial power readings normal," Torres announced over the comm. "Beginning Stage 1 activation." The Observer moved closer to the main display. "Remember, Captain, you must follow the activation sequence exactly as we provided. The original builder's systems are very particular." "Don't worry," Walker replied calmly. "We'll follow the sequence to the letter." It wasn't even a lie. They just weren't using the sequence the Concordat had given them. Deep in the ship's computer core, hidden programs written over the past 3 months waited silently. The Concordat's sabotage was still there, but now it was surrounded by layers of human code, ready to redirect and contain the coming energy surge. "Stage 1 complete," Torres reported. "Moving to Stage 2. Power levels at 15% and rising." The Concordat representatives moved restlessly, their long fingers twitching. Walker watched them from the corner of his eye. They were nervous, but not worried. Yet, everything appeared to be going according to their plan. "Stage 2 complete. Power levels at 30%. Nash's voice came over a private channel in Walker's earpiece. "Ready with the quantum field modifications. They won't see it until it's too late." Walker gave no sign he'd heard, but he shifted his weight slightly. The movement was a signal to his hidden security teams. If anything went wrong, if the Concordat representatives realized what was really happening, they needed to be contained immediately. Power levels at 50%. Beginning Stage 3. The quantum core's hum rose to a deeper pitch. Energy readings climbed steadily on the main display. The Observer's fingers danced over his own monitoring device, checking the readings against their expectations. 60%, 70%. This was the crucial moment. In the Concordat's sabotaged sequence, this was when the feedback loops would begin to form, starting the cascade that would destroy everything. But Torres and Nash had spent months preparing for this moment. Energy spike detected. The Observer's voice carried fake alarm. "Captain, you must shut down immediately. The core is becoming unstable." Walker turned to him slowly. Is it? Our readings show everything within expected parameters. The observer's translator crackled with genuine surprise. But the energy patterns, this is impossible. Interesting choice of words. Walker's voice was cold. About as impossible as finding a derelict battleship and turning it into a death trap. The alien's large eyes widened. Behind him, the other representatives began moving toward the door, only to find their way blocked by Walker's security team. You knew. It wasn't a question. We knew from the first day. Walker turned back to the main display. Did you really think we wouldn't check? That we just blindly trust your gift without taking it apart piece by piece? 80% power, Torres reported. Quantum field stabilizing. No sign of cascade formation. The observer's composure cracked. You don't understand what you're doing. That ship's power could tear reality apart. No, Walker corrected him. We understand exactly what we're doing. Better than you do, actually. You found this ship, learned enough to turn it into a weapon, and thought that was all it could be. But he smiled. We learned what it was really built for. 90% power, quantum field fully contained. Torres's voice carried fierce triumph. Ready for final stage. The observer lunged for his communication device, but Walker was faster. A quick gesture, and the security team had all 6 aliens restrained. I wouldn't bother calling for help, Walker said quietly. Your ships won't be able to communicate through the quantum field we're generating. Actually, they won't be able to do much of anything for the next few hours. On the main display, the power readings hit 100%. The quantum core's hum changed to a pure crystal tone that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. Around the ship, space began to ripple like water. Quantum field stable. All systems responding. Torres's voice was jubilant. It works exactly like we thought. The original builders, they weren't trying to create a weapon. This ship can manipulate space-time itself. The observer had gone very still. You have no idea what forces you're playing with. Actually, Nash cut in over the comm. We do. We spent 3 months studying every circuit, every crystal, every line of code. While you watched us and waited for us to walk into your trap, we were learning things you never bothered to understand. Walker stepped closer to the observer. You wanted to destroy us because we were developing too quickly, because we might someday become a threat to your power. So you gave us this ship, thinking we'd be too excited, too grateful, too naive to look carefully at your gift. Through the view screen, they could see the Concordat ships floating helplessly, caught in the quantum field's effect. Their weapons were useless, their engines dead, their communications silenced. That was your mistake, Walker continued. Not the attempt to destroy us. We're almost used to that from older species by now. No, your mistake was thinking we wouldn't check inside the gift horse's mouth. Thinking we'd act like children with a new toy instead of scientists with a new discovery. Power stable at 100%, Torres reported. All systems nominal. The quantum field extends 12 light minutes in all directions. Every Concordat ship in the solar system is contained. Walker looked at the observer. Now shall we discuss the future? A future where humanity isn't your pet project or your potential victim, but your equal. Because right now, we're the ones who understand how this ship really works. We're the ones who can control its power. The observer's large eyes fixed on Walker. You would blackmail us. No, Walker replied. We're going to negotiate. As equals. And you're going to agree. Because now you know what happens when you underestimate humanity. When you mistake caution for weakness and paranoia for lack of vision. The quantum core's pure tone filled the ship, a testament to humanity's triumph over betrayal. They had turned the Concordat's trap into a key to the stars, their intended execution into a demonstration of power. And now, finally, the real work could begin. The next 48 hours changed everything. While the Concordat ships hung powerless in space, trapped in the quantum field, Humanity prepared for its first steps into a larger universe. In the ancient battleship's command center, Walker coordinated with Earth's leaders, while Torres and Nash explored the true limits of their new understanding. "The quantum field is stable," Torres reported, her fingers dancing over the crystalline controls. "We can extend it even further if needed. Their reinforcements won't be able to enter the solar system without being caught in the effect." The observer and his fellow representatives remained under guard, watching helplessly as humans mastered technology their own people had never fully understood. Walker noticed how their attitude had shifted from condescending concern to genuine fear. "Your people will retaliate," the observer said quietly. "The Concordat has ruled space for 10,000 years. We will not simply accept this humiliation." Walker turned from his displays. "Humiliation? Is that what you think this is about?" He walked closer to the alien diplomat. "This isn't about humiliating you. This is about survival. You tried to murder our entire species, and now you're angry that we didn't walk quietly into your trap." Nash entered the command center, carrying new data readings. "Captain, you need to see this. We've decoded more of the original builder's database. The quantum core. It's not just a drive system or a weapon. It's a key to understanding the fundamental nature of space-time." The observer's large eyes widened. "You can read the builder's language." "We had 3 months to work on it," Nash replied with a shrug. "Amazing what humans can do when we're properly motivated. When someone tries to kill us, for instance." Walker studied the new data. "What are we looking at, exactly?" "The builders didn't just master quantum mechanics. They transcended it. This ship can create stable wormholes, manipulate gravity, even alter the flow of time itself. And that's just what we've discovered so far." A message flashed on the main screen. The Concordat's Central Council was demanding to speak with their representatives. Walker looked at the observer. "Your leaders are probably wondering why their clever trap hasn't sprung yet." He nodded to a communications officer. "Put them through. Let's show them exactly what they've accomplished with their attempted genocide." The screen filled with the image of the Concordat Council, 7 tall, elegant aliens seated in what looked like a grand chamber. Their spokesman leaned forward, voice crackling through the translator. "Release our ships immediately," the council leader demanded. "This act of aggression will not be tolerated." Walker laughed, a sound without humor. "Aggression? That's rich, coming from the people who just tried to wipe out our entire solar system. Or did you think we wouldn't figure out what this ship was really meant to do?" The council leader's composure slipped slightly. "We don't know what lies your military has fabricated." "Stop." Walker's voice cut through the excuses. "We found your sabotage. We understood your trap. And then we did what humans do best. We learned, we adapted, and we turned your weapon into something far more interesting." Torres stepped forward, bringing up technical displays. "Your modifications to the quantum core were crude," she said, professional disdain clear in her voice. "You understood enough to create a destructive cascade, but you never bothered to understand what the technology was actually designed for." The council chamber erupted in angry muttering. The leader raised a hand for silence. "You claim to understand technology that has baffled our best scientists for centuries." "Claim?" Nash tapped a control, and suddenly the council chamber's gravity reversed. The council members floated from their seats, their dignity shattered as they flailed in zero gravity. Another tap, and they crashed back down. "That was a tiny fraction of what this ship can do," Nash said calmly. "Want to see what happens when we really start exploring its capabilities?" Walker held up a hand, and Nash stepped back. "Here's what's going to happen." Walker addressed the council. "First, you're going to admit what you tried to do. Not to us. We already know. But to your own people and to the other species you claim to protect. You cannot possibly expect." The leader began. "Second," Walker continued as if there had been no interruption, "you're going to acknowledge humanity as equals. No more treating us like children who need to be controlled. No more guidance about developing too quickly." Torres brought up new displays, showing the quantum field's effect spreading through the solar system. "We can maintain this field indefinitely," she explained. "None of your ships can enter or leave. Your communications can't penetrate it. You're cut off from your entire empire." "This is impossible," one of the council members whispered. "The power requirements alone." "The power requirements are trivial for this ship's systems," Nash corrected. "Your scientists never figured that out because they were too busy trying to turn it into a bomb. We, on the other hand, spent 3 months studying every circuit, every crystal, every line of code." Walker stepped closer to the screen. "You have 2 hours to make your decision. Either you start being honest with everyone, including yourselves, or we'll demonstrate just how much we've learned about this ship's capabilities. And trust me, what we did to your gravity was just a party trick compared to what we could do." The council leader's face had gone pale. 2 hours? You cannot expect us to. 1 hour and 59 minutes now. Walker interrupted. "I suggest you spend it wisely." He cut the transmission. The observer watched this exchange with a mix of horror and fascination. "You would really risk war with the Concordat?" "You already started that war," Walker replied. "When you gave us this ship, when you tried to murder our entire species, you made this conflict inevitable. The only question was whether we'd die in ignorance or learn enough to fight back." Torres's console beeped. More Concordat ships approaching the solar system. 3 fleets, heavily armed. "Let them come," Walker said calmly. "The field will catch them just like the others. And every ship we catch is another demonstration of just how badly their leaders miscalculated." The observer studied Walker's face. "You're enjoying this." "No," Walker corrected him. "I'm not enjoying any of it. But I am going to make absolutely sure that no one ever tries something like this again. You wanted to keep humanity weak, controlled, dependent on your guidance. Instead, you handed us the key to understanding the universe itself." Nash looked up from his readings. 1 hour and 45 minutes until the council's deadline. "Want to bet on whether they'll make the smart choice?" Walker watched the displays showing dozens of helpless Concordat ships floating in space. "They'll make the only choice they can. Because now they know what happens when you hand humans a trap and expect us not to study it down to the last atom." The quantum core hummed its crystal tone through the ship, a reminder of just how thoroughly humanity's supposed executioner had become their salvation. The timer counted down while the Concordat leaders faced the consequences of their greatest mistake: underestimating humanity's capacity to learn, adapt, and overcome. The Concordat Council made their decision with 7 minutes to spare. Their public broadcast reached every corner of known space, carefully worded but clear in its meaning. They admitted to errors in judgment regarding humanity's development, acknowledged their mishandling of ancient technology, and recognized Earth as a full and equal member of the galactic community. Walker watched the broadcast from the ancient battleship's command center, Torres and Nash at his side. The observer and his fellow representatives stood under guard, their usual dignified posture replaced by slumped shoulders and lowered heads. "Not quite a full confession," Nash noted, "but enough to make everyone ask questions. Questions they won't be able to avoid answering," Torres added. "Especially once other species start wondering what made the mighty Concordat back down so quickly." Walker nodded to his communications officer. "Release the quantum field. Let their ships go." He turned to the observer. "Your vessels are free to leave. I suggest you use this time to reconsider how you treat lesser species." The observer moved toward the exit but paused. "You could have destroyed us. Used this ship's power to tear our worlds apart. Why didn't you?" "Because we're not you," Walker replied simply. "We don't solve our problems by trying to erase them. Speaking of which," he brought up a new display, showing the quantum core's readings. "Dr. Nash, show them what we actually learned to do with their trap." Nash's fingers danced over the controls. The ship hummed with power, but differently now. Not the threatening crystal tone of before, but a deeper, almost musical sound. Outside the view screens, space itself began to ripple. "What you're seeing," Nash explained, unable to hide his excitement, "is what this ship was actually built for. We're not tearing space apart. We're reshaping it, creating paths where none existed." The ripples coalesced into something impossible, a stable gateway through space itself. Through the portal, they could see a star system that should have been hundreds of light years away. "A transportation network," Torres said proudly. "The original builders created this ship to connect the galaxy, not destroy it. All that power you tried to use as a weapon. It was meant to bring people together, not tear them apart." The observer stared at the portal. "Our scientists spent centuries studying this ship. How did you discover this in 3 months?" "Because we had to," Walker said. "Because you gave us no choice but to understand every detail of this ship or die. Necessity made us look closer, work harder, think beyond the obvious." He smiled slightly. "Also, we didn't assume we already knew everything." That helped. The portal shimmered, stable and beautiful. Through it, they could see Concordat ships approaching cautiously, their sensors no doubt going crazy trying to understand what they were seeing. "This is just the beginning," Nash said. "The builder's database. It's not just technical information. It's their history, their philosophy, their understanding of the universe itself. They didn't build weapons. They built tools to bring civilization together." Torres brought up more displays. "We've barely scratched the surface of what this ship can do. Stable wormholes, gravity manipulation, even limited time field control. But it's all designed to connect, to build, to explore. You looked at this masterpiece of engineering and saw only a way to destroy. We looked at it and saw the future." The observer's large eyes blinked slowly. "The Council will never accept this level of advancement. They'll try to stop you, contain you." "They can try," Walker agreed. "But I don't think they'll succeed. Because now every species in the galaxy is going to be asking questions about the Concordat's guidance, about their control of advanced technology, about their treatment of lesser species." He gestured to the portal. "And we'll be here, showing everyone what's possible when you stop thinking about power and start thinking about potential." One by one, the Concordat representatives were escorted to their ships. As the observer left, he turned one last time to Walker. "You've changed everything. The galaxy won't be the same after this." "That was your doing, not ours," Walker replied. "You handed us what you thought was our destruction and forced us to understand it completely just to survive. Everything that happens next, that's on you." After the Concordat ships departed, Walker stood with his team watching the portal shimmer. Beyond it lay not just distant stars, but a future no one had expected 6 months ago. A future where humanity didn't just survive an attempted genocide, but emerged stronger, wiser, and with the keys to the galaxy in their hands. "What do we do now?" Torres asked softly. Walker studied the portal, thinking of all the worlds that lay beyond it, all the species who'd lived under the Concordat's guidance for so long. Now we do what humans have always done best. We explore, we learn, we build." He smiled. "And we make very, very sure that no one ever mistakes us for helpless children again." "And the Concordat?" Nash asked. "They'll adapt or they'll fade away," Walker said. "But they'll never forget what happened here, how their perfect trap became humanity's stepping stone to the stars, how their attempt to destroy us only made us stronger." The ancient battleship hummed with power, not the destructive force its would-be killers had intended, but the pure energy of creation and connection its original builders had designed. Humanity had been handed a death trap and turned it into a doorway to the future. As the first human ships began moving through the portal, Walker thought about the irony of it all. The Concordat had feared humanity's rapid development, their quick adoption of new ideas, their constant drive to understand and improve. Those very traits, the ones that had marked them for destruction, had instead ensured their survival and triumph. They had been handed a death trap. They had turned it into hope. And now, standing at the threshold of a new age, humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly what happened when you underestimated their determination to survive, to understand, and to grow. The future was waiting. And this time, humanity would meet it on their own terms.